If your child has any special needs, applying for an individualized education program or IEP can be confusing and difficult. For one, you should know teachers have limited capabilities in helping. That's why you need to know this process. Also, this could take months. Starting now at the beginning of the school year, your IEP may not be finalized until Christmas. That's why I have Caroline James with me in studio. She's an educator and a mom to a child with special needs. Caroline, walk me through this process, starting with the referral.
So the referral process starts when a parent, an educator, someone on the campus, someone in the student's life recognizes that something's going on. The student isn't meeting benchmarks, state assessments were failed, the child is depressed, struggling, not liking school, something's going on academically, and their needs aren't being met in the classroom with that Tier 1 instruction. So Tier 1 instruction is what we refer to as that first pass of instruction in the classroom. If they're not getting it through that, and they're not getting it through whatever systems are in place to help support the students outside of special education, it's time to dig deeper.
What are some of those warning signs that parents can look out for in their student if they're not meeting grade level or if they're not performing well?
I encourage parents to look at state assessments. State assessments aren't perfect, but they're a wonderful benchmark to check in and see, is my child capable of the material that is supposed to be covered in that grade level? So for example, third grade STAR, is my child ready to move on to fourth grade? Do they have the skills that they were supposed to get in third grade and are ready to move on to fourth grade? Assessments, grades, having your child read to you is so important. Parents, we're told so many times to read to our kids, which is great. That's wonderful. It helps with fluency and comprehension. Having your child read to you lets you know exactly where they are, what their reading level is, and to do that on a regular basis means you're watching for growth. You're making sure that they're progressing in their reading development and they're able to read more complex passages, have conversations with you, make predictions, those kinds of things.
And I know when we had talked earlier, from your personal experience as a mom with a child with special needs, you were saying how it was a struggle to get him to go to school in the mornings. There was frustration. Is that another thing parents should be looking for?
Yes, that was definitely a red flag for us at our house. I had this student who liked school for a while and then definitely did not like school, was not feeling successful. I would get notes home saying that he was being obstinate or refusing to do work, and I knew that that wasn't my kid. Something wasn't right. So why wasn't he doing his work? Why wasn't he being successful in the classroom? I wanted more answers.
Once a referral happens, what's step 2?
Yeah, so once you ask for testing, the school has 15 school days to respond to that request for testing. So I knew that something wasn't going on with my son and I asked for testing. They complete the testing. Once they hear from me that I want testing, they have 15 days to respond to me and ask me to sign a consent for testing.
And is that on the parent to request testing?
It is, yeah.
Will teachers or administrators be able to help facilitate that process?
It depends on the educator. Ideally, a teacher that recognizes that something's going on with a student is meeting with those parents and communicating their concerns. But there are steps in between recognizing a problem and jumping right to testing. We want to push in some minimal interventions initially and see if we can't meet that child's needs in the classroom.
Step 3, what does that entail?
Step 3 is when we go to evaluation. So a school, from the time that you request testing and you sign that consent to test, the school has 45 school days to respond and actually test your student. Depending on what they're looking for, they're going to do different kinds of tests and dig in different areas. So academic, observations, pencil and paper tests, meeting with the student. Ideally, you have a great diagnostician who develops a relationship with your student and they see the best of that student in those testing sessions. Finally, that diagnostician is going to write a report and send that report to the parents and the administrators for review.
Is there ever a point in the evaluation process where a diagnostician can say, we don't believe the student has special needs, and then you don't continue with the process?
Yes, so a diagnostician will collect information from the teacher, from the administrator, from the parents, and if in the collection of all of that data, they don't feel like there's an academic need, if there's not something going on that specifically speaks to the student's achievement academically, they may well say that the student doesn't qualify for special education services.
And step 4 is the ARD meeting. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so the ARD meeting is where all of these different groups come together. So you may have a room full of people. You'll have parents, teachers, administrators, special ed representatives, so that could be a diagnostician. If the student is going to qualify for special services like physical therapy or occupational therapy, those people might be at the table as well. It can be a really overwhelming process for a parent to walk into a room full of educators. And I would just encourage every parent to ask as many questions as you can. Slow the meeting down when you need to. Make sure that you're understanding what they're providing for your student and that what they're providing is actually going to make a difference.
And this is the part where parents are encouraged to speak up,
Yes.
ask questions.
Yes.
If there's acronyms you don't understand, ask them to slow down, as you were saying.
Yes. Educators are notorious for speaking in acronyms. I do it, and I don't do it intentionally, and I don't do it to leave anybody out of the conversation. But when I do it, you have to remind me to stop, because not everybody knows what LRE is and FAPE and IDA. But these are terms that educators throw out there, and we get in a mindset and we think that we're serving kids, but we need to slow down and we need to make sure that parents are understanding what we're talking about and that we're putting that student first. I would say the main thing that I would tell any parent is, you know your kid best. You want to fight for their academic success in the school. And you can do that in a gentle, respectful way, and everybody can come to that meeting and have a really productive meeting where they develop an IEP, an individualized education program for that student. And ideally, that program is going to serve that student well, and they're going to be successful in the classroom.
And step 5 is developing the IEP.
Yeah, so the IEP is the roadmap. The IEP is where we push in different accommodations and supports for that student. And you have to be really careful about what you're providing and what you're not providing. You don't want to handicap a student and give them too many supports in an area and make them dependent on tools, but you want to give them the tools that they need to be successful.
And I want to go back to the main timeline with all the different steps on there. Walk me through the timeline too, because you said there was days in between here, days in between here. What are those timelines again?
Right, so from the time a parent requests testing, the school has 15 days to respond. So 15 days to reach back out to the parent and say, you're right, we have concerns as well, or let's sit down and have a meeting and discuss your concerns, but 15 days to circle back with that parent and dig in. If the parent is insistent on testing, they'll have the parent sign a consent for testing. And then from that point, there's 45 days until they will come together and review the testing and come up with an IEP.
And as we were saying earlier, you could start this process now. It could take months.
It could.
How long does it typically take? Do you know?
It depends on the school. It depends on the diagnostician. It depends on everybody's workload. There's a lot of factors. And it's just important that parents watch the clock. Write down the date that you turned in your request for testing. Date any emails that you send the school. Keep them. Make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing in service of that child.
And the younger the child is, the more critical it is to catch this sooner.
Well, Lacey, as you know, I care most about literacy. We have to get kids reading on grade level by 3rd grade. So this wait and see approach just isn't going to work for me. It's too important to have kids reading on level by 3rd grade. We know that if you're not reading on grade level by 3rd grade, you're four times more likely to drop out of school. We also know that your postgraduate opportunities start dwindling if you're not reading on grade level. So kinder, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, these are critical times. This is where we're developing those good reading habits. This is where we're getting good exposure to literacy and reading and proper curriculum. And that's just really critical time.
Thank you, Caroline, for your expertise this morning. I appreciate you coming in and explaining all of this to us. This can be a convoluted process, but we're covering topics like this because you guys have reached out. Please keep emailing us at texaseducation@cbs.com.